What is going on, Clippers fans? Welcome to Season 2, Episode 29 of Clips and Dip. I am Chuck Mockler. William Updike is here as well. Adam Oslin, who is usually with us, is sick today. He cannot make it. He did want us to tell everyone he is still keeping receipts. So don't think just because he's sick.
Say some wild stuff to Adam on Twitter if you get a chance today. Just give the man a reason to keep on living.
Exactly. We are Clips and Dip. You can find us anywhere you find podcasts. If you're watching us on YouTube, welcome. We're at youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast. We have a fantastic show. We are joined today by Rod Benson, former Cal Bear, Korean League champion, All-Star in the Korean League, Import Player of the Year, D-League All-Star in 2007, hell of a golfer, a fantastic artist, and the author of the new book that came out today that we are going to talk about, Different Dude. Rod, thank you so much for bringing your high-level basketball acumen to the show. How the hell are you?
First of all, you left off like the only thing that matters to this podcast, which was Summer League Clippers starter 2010. I don't know.
Whoa! I couldn't find it.
How did you not open with that?
I don't know.
It was Blake Griffin's like rookie year too. It was like because he was hurt, so he was coming back, so he like only trained with us and then didn't play. But yeah, like DJ, I was out there. I had the jersey on.
Bro, you could have been. Damn. You could have been in Lob City.
What could have been?
That's so rad. We are so happy to have you on the show. Will, I won't run down your resume because I don't think it's as
too
deep,
extensive.
How are we doing? The Clippers just beat the Nuggets for the first time in 56 years. Feeling pretty good about it, I guess.
So was that an exaggeration?
No, they hadn't.
2022, I think, is the last time.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, whoa. The Nuggets been around for 56 years.
I also don't like that actually is something we had to do where it's like, wait, has it been 56? But yeah, I don't know. We're feeling pretty good. Rod, I'm sure you've seen what's the Clippers' current roster. They've made some moves. They've crawled back to 500. We're going to talk about how we feel the Clippers being 500 after 20 games in the grand scheme of things. But as a former Clipper great, what are your impressions right now of the Clippers? Do you see this team being able to make a run? Are they putting things together? What are you seeing in Clippers ness?
Yeah, I'll say that since 2010 is when I first came into the Clipperverse, we'll call it. Since then, they've been like a fourth place team for like 20 years with a couple and they still feel like it. And the reason they feel like it is because you can't even, do you understand? I tried to prep for this by like, how do I find Clippers talk? Like, how do I get some information about what's been happening recently with the Clippers? Sure. There's like actually none. You might be the only people. I get Clippers fans now. Today
there's
was
3 other podcasts. Yeah.
Because it's like you guys are always just not good enough to be in the zeitgeist. So it just always feels like, Clippers have some good players, maybe fourth.
You're not wrong. Like the Clippers media cycle's a trip because it's usually the media buys in and then the Clippers underperform and then the media gets really upset that they bought in and then decides to write the Clippers off. Will, does that feel accurate? It feels like I
think it feels accurate for the 2-1-3 era. Everyone was like really excited. When the summer that trade happened, we had the earthquake during Summer League in Vegas.
Oh, right.
And then the Clippers enjoyed like 2 years of, contender sort of, I guess, status, where it seemed like a possibility despite not, the first year, despite not playing a minute together yet. So they didn't even know what it was going to look like. And then after the fall apart in the bubble, people thought they could come back from it. But since then, I agree with Rod. I think it's been very much like, what is this team? Like truly, what is like the ceiling of their potential? And is it of interest? Because it's not a sexy team. Like there's nothing about this team that's like an interesting team to from a media perspective. You have maybe 4 of like the most disliked players in the league. And I mean, like truly, like Harden and Westbrook,
right.
Harden and Westbrook have to be 2 of the most disliked players in the league. Deserved or undeserved, they are 2 of the most polarizing players for reasons I cannot comprehend. Kawhi, the media hates him, coaches hate him, everyone seems to hate him. And then Paul George sticks his foot in his mouth on a daily basis. So that one is maybe the most earned of the 4. But like it's like I said, it's not a headlining team. It's not, there's not a lot of sizzle there.
No
There's some
sizzle.
steak, but there's not a lot of sizzle.
It's well, there's no, and this has been some random person tweeted this out the other day, but the identity has been the Clippers issue. Because like there's not one thing you can point towards with this Clippers team and say that is what Clippers basketball is. It's not like gritty rebounding. It's not like, Memphis or something in the grit and grind days where it's like, oh, you're gonna get out hustled. The Clippers, it's like they're gonna play fundamental
can I,
ass.
Counter that a little bit. Like,
go for it.
Yeah.
To me, no team has had more like definitions of what they are than the Clippers. It was like Lob City.
Oh, that's
fair. It was like whatever, like the headband, like the three
knuckleheads.
The knuckleheads, yeah. And it's like I don't follow Clippers enough to remember. Like no other team has like literally their offense called like their nickname.
That's fair.
And when they got, again, it died down so quickly. There was a lot of hype when Kawhi and Paul George got together. And I'm sure if they had done one thing, if they'd been healthy enough to do one thing that's like, oh man, team helicopter, like we'd be and a helicopter offense to the Clippers. You know how it goes out there.
Around.
Everyone knows what the Clippers do. They just don't do it when like people are watching. Like I played basketball a long time. And like the best teams I was on, the very best teams. I'm not saying we tanked the regular season. That's not it at all. We purposely wouldn't put in strategies. We would practice them every day and we'd wait. Like we know we're going to play this team at the second round or this team. We would save all that stuff. And then when I was on teams that would do well in the regular season, we wouldn't save any of that. We would just go all out. We got to show what we are. And it's like the Clippers have never been good enough to save anything. Like it just comes like you get to the playoffs and it's like, you have to beat 9, 6, 7 dudes. Cool. Like figure it out. Like, I don't know. It's not like there's no secrets. There's no surprises ever from this team.
I would agree. Like, except for that first year when it was like the small ball was something that they kept in the back pocket. Or I guess that was the first tie year. They kept the small ball in the back pocket with, Marcus Morris out there and all the wings. And that they even had to move away from. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. That's something that I wonder about, like with the Clippers being 500 right now. Like, is there another gear? Is there another thing? From an X's and O's standpoint, I don't really think so. Like, I don't think that is. I'm not seeing any progression towards that. So unless they're really holding it back, I think like where they can kind of do better than 500 or win more is on the margins and like some of these rotations and like the combination of players, which just with the overhaul that happens every year. I mean, I'm sure you have more experience, Rod. Like, how long does it take a team to gel when you're going through constant, like when people are getting shuffled around all the time?
Man, I'll say this. Like, I also think now that you said that, the Clippers have always been in like weird emotional positions, like guys moving in weird ways where it's like, that's way bigger than people think. Way bigger than people think. Like, if you aren't comfortable, like the teams were like, and I guess to plug the book, it's in the book, but there's some teams where there's some teams I played on where it's like we walked in day one and everyone knew we were going to win. Now the season had like crazy ups and downs where like we might not have believed it the whole time, but it's like I would walk into those training camps like, especially if we're talking overseas. As the American, you get a lot of leeway, like because we're considered lazier and all these things. I'll walk in like those championship teams. First day, I'm like, "Yo, guys, let's go." Leading it, going dumb hard because it's a whole different set of expectations. There are also other teams that just clearly don't have those expectations the same.
Sure.
And you can fake it. Like I've gone into shitty teams and tried to fake it, but like after a couple days.
We suck.
It's not that we suck. It's like you still believe you're going to win. Like you always believe you're going to win, but it's like, oh, well, I'm going to make Terry doesn't, he thinks you're talking down to him because like, what, what I mean? Like you got to approach a guy like Terry differently.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, we're one of those teams. Okay, let's see. And the Clippers have kind of always been one of those teams.
I like what the thread you're kind of pulling with that. Like we got asked on our last episode if Russell Westbrook was still going to be on this team after the trade deadline. And like the answer is a resounding yes, because if the Clippers, after all the campaigning that Ty Lue and Paul George did, if they traded Russell Westbrook, that is when shit hits the fan. I'm not saying it's like just on-court stuff aside, if they traded Russell Westbrook away, this team, I think it wouldn't implode, but there would be, you have 3 huge egos feels like such a pejorative term in this sense. Cause like these guys, like Harden, Russ, Kawhi, and PG earned their status, right? Like they're very good at basketball and have been in the league for a very long
But they're
time.
particular. I feel like it's
very particular. They're very particular. And that's,
I would love to jump in right here. I would just love to.
let's go.
I don't know, man. Like, I am fans of all of these players, especially because they're all from LA. We're all similar age.
Yeah.
So I have
Palmdale
seen them, some of them growing up. I used to go to SDSU and play against Kawhi. I'm doing the the Stephen A. Smith thing where it's like, I go to Dwayne Wade's house. And
you actually played though. You actually played.
Where it's like I have to caveat this whole thing.
Yeah.
So hard. Because I don't mean this as hatefully as it's going to sound.
Totally. No.
But Paul George didn't win MVP, right? No, and Kawhi Leonard did not win MVP. He won Finals MVP.
The year they traded for Paul George, he finished third in MVP voting, which people fucking forget. Anyway,
right. So I guess if I'm looking at the Clippers, Paul George is the only player who has been like near MVP status that I've respected as having that talent. And I don't mean that as like these guys don't deserve to be heralded, but
totally.
When Russell Westbrook first won MVP, I was like, is anybody watching this? If he had averaged the same points and assists, but 4 rebounds, he wouldn't have gotten it. It was all about the triple-double. But then we're giving credit to him for being an elite rebounder when he couldn't box me out. If we're being really honest, if I was in a game with Russell Westbrook, he couldn't stop me from getting an offensive rebound.
Today.
I'm not saying, even in his prime, right? Like, I don't know. But I was also like, you can look this up, like per minute, one of the best rebounders to like ever live. I know that's weird, but my agent used to make these big emails to send off to NBA teams to try to get me signed. He's like, per minute, what Rod Benson's doing in the league is crazy.
It's Andre Drummond and it's Rod Benson.
I guess it's not like Oscar Tshiebwe. But I mean this in a very sincere way, right? Like if Oscar Tshiebwe came into the league tomorrow and played 26 minutes a game on a Westbrook team, we'll call it 2016, and he averaged 6 rebounds, is Russell Westbrook better than him at rebounding? Like, obviously not, but we gave him credit for that, and that credit was leveraged. James Harden won an MVP, but I'm not going to say it wasn't because he wasn't good. It was like he kind of found all the loopholes in the game and turned them into like this magic trick that was like
Floyd. It's like Floyd boxing. Harden took the rules, like Floyd took the rules in boxing, was like, I'm going to figure out how to make this shit work for me as well as possible.
And I've never seen anyone maximize that space as hard. But totally. On the backside of that is, if you're maximizing a box, anyone who can go outside the box is going to find that space. And so on and so forth. Kawhi, he won a chip, but a lot of people were injured that year. All I mean is the hype around the Clippers is always like, I shouldn't say is always, has been. We have these
the 2-1-3 era.
We've got some MVPs. I mean, maybe they're aging or whatever, but in all honesty, in their primes, I don't think this team wins a championship.
Damn,
because they don't work together well. Most of what we think of them as good, like their best attributes, are the ones that we give them credit. Like, he's not just a point guard; he does these things too. Those things too run into what other players should be doing.
Just be a point guard.
A lot of overlap. A lot of overlap.
It doesn't actually work out the way that people think when you just add like, oh, this guard's good at rebounding, this big's like, no, we're going to run into each other a lot. Now I got to get out of his way. We're going to run it this way. Now I'm less effective. There's a lot of reasons why these things happen, but you have 4 like essentially MVP level players who are younger than like most of the Lakers have ever been, and you literally are sitting at 500. Like, it's not, to me, it is a little bit of rocket science, but no one analyzes the game like in that way because it's not sexy.
I was gonna say it doesn't. Yeah.
Sorry for that long.
No, rant, so the overlap makes total sense because Will and I were watching the game last night against the Nuggets, and the Clippers offense right now, things are trending up, but right now it's a lot of one pass. What are you gonna do with it? They're not making the defense second guess anything. It's all, if there's 3 passes, I am in heaven because it probably means we went to the paint, we kicked it out. But it's usually right now kind of one pass, and we're being carried as we should be, which is the other part of the conundrum, by the abilities of these the three starters between Harden, PG, and Kawhi, it's a lot of asking of individualness and not as much ball movement teamwork stuff right now. And we kind of, that's a great segue into the 500 thing. Like, we'll start with you. 500 after 20 games, which, correct me if I'm wrong, either of you, that is worst case scenario that if you would have asked any Clippers fans after 20 games.
With James Harden, not for the full 20, but
sure. But like if you were to say, hey, Kawhi and PG are going to play the first 20 games, what's the worst thing you could possibly think of happening? 500, I would be hard pressed to not be the worst case scenario. Will, is this going to be the first team that's not, what is it, a top 3 seed? I don't see us being a top 3 seed with this start. Mathematically, it seems very difficult. What does this Clippers team have to show you to make you believe that after starting 500 through 20 games, they can win a chip?
Oof. I don't really even know if they're, I really like at this point, I don't know if they're capable of putting enough of that together for me to be like,
what do you mean? Oh, nothing.
They're ready. And for me, it's not even just the record. I mean, it's just, the games that we've lost, the way that we've lost them. I feel like we've gotten to this point where the same things keep happening to the team again and again, regardless of like what the supporting cast is around Paul George and Kawhi. Like basically every team has the formula. Even if you're shorthanded, if you want to beat the Clippers, play with pace and out hustle them and you will win. Yeah. Like there is a better than 50% chance that you will win, even if the Clippers are 100% healthy. It's too easy. And I think with the offensive struggles right now, which the numbers are good, like the net ratings are good. When the players when everybody is, efficient, it looks really like it looks good from a stats perspective. I would say looking at it on the floor, it doesn't to me feel like a cohesive team that could really do something, that could win 16 games, essentially, right. 16 games at the highest level. And I think right now, I think there's a lot of positives and there is a lot of talent. But for me, this year, the team feels more piecemealed together than ever. It's just like it feels, kind of like to Rod's point, like it just feels like there's all these pieces that in a vacuum are good. I'm like, they're not really fully fitting together. And I struggle to see how you can, I'm struggling a little bit to see how you can maximize it to the highest level. Could they get out of the second round? I could believe that.
Right. And we're saying all this December 7th, 6:58 p.m. as they're sitting 500. We have seen Ty Lue split up Russ and James Harden, which is very much needed if you watched any of the games. Rod, what does this Clippers team have to do to make you believe that they could, let's just say, go to the finals? Because at this point, if you're a Clippers fan, we've been in the Western Conference Finals. This is probably the last year that is the best shot at winning a championship for all 4 of these players. What would you have to see from this version of the Clips to really believe? Like 20 wins in a row?
I guess if I say I have to see them win the correct amount of games, is that a good answer?
No, that's fair because they lose games they shouldn't lose. They lost to a Nuggets team with DeAndre Jordan and Reggie Jackson killing us. Like, to win the amount of games they should win is, I think, actually a really great take because they've never done that in this era.
So I'm an artist, and you see my art behind me. I tend to take like the bigger, sweeping answers, which is probably why I'm not on TV because nothing shorter. They're like fun about what I say. But I alluded to this earlier. I think the Clippers are built wrong. I think that there was like a 6-year stretch where the Warriors were doing well, where teams tried to copy it. A bunch of I said a bunch of 6-7 guys on purpose. I don't care if you put one big around them. That's not really gonna win you a chip. I haven't seen a team win since the Warriors or besides the Warriors because Draymond Green can kind of play outside his size.
Yeah.
Having all their guys be essentially wings and then surround a big. That was exclusively to the Warriors, and I even bring that up about the Warriors because and about art, because I think that there's a tendency in like business, especially tech, to look at what exists and how do I improve upon it.
Totally.
So at a time when basketball was that Warrior style, it was like pretty much science. Like I think Lacob and all these guys would say that they, concocted a team like no one had ever seen. They used like
with the help of a cap jump that was never seen either.
Exactly. And Moneyball, whatever. But just copying that is part of the reason the Clippers were expected to do well. No one actually ever, I don't think, like, if the Warriors hadn't played, like, oh, if you put a bunch of like 6'7" wings, you'll win because we can switch everything. We can be more than like literally no. You have to be the best shooting wings of all time.
Yes.
And have like your forward be a guy who can guard 7'3" dudes. That's just not that's not plug and play.
Yeah.
And I've just seen it from, like most sports teams where they don't have like the forefront thinkers of the sport working. I'm not saying all these people are really, really like in depth. They know everything. Like I don't know any coach I've ever been around in the NBA who doesn't know 1,000% more than me. But some are stuck in what is, and some are looking at what is becoming. And I don't know if you noticed in the last 7 years, and this is a big like point of mine, but the bigs are back.
They are
winning without one of those guys. You're just not. And the reason why Anthony Davis gets all the shit he gets is because everyone knows the Lakers won't win unless he plays like the best player, because the best player on the other team is going to be a big. I don't care who you have. If you can't stop someone near the basket, that's why every rule in basketball is designed to stop big people from playing. Literally. But now they've been developing in Europe and they're coming back bigger, taller, with the same skills.
Better touch, better shooting, better. Yeah.
You're not going to beat it. I'm sorry. You're not going to beat it with a bunch of the NBA is going to have to relax rules again. Maybe they will, because they want to promote more stars. They need like as many stars as possible.
And gambling.
The better it goes, and gambling. But there's like 4 teams with a chance to win, and they all have the big. That's it.
Ooh. All right, we got to take a quick break because we have to pay the bill, but because of lights and whatnot. We're gonna keep talking about this. We got an ad break coming up, and then we're talking the big issue, which is fantastic to think about with the Western Conference when you look at who's in first place right now and where the Clippers are in our big situation. We got ads coming up. They've been a little loud for some people. If that's been the case for you, go ahead and turn it down. We got ads coming up, and then we're continuing this big conversation in 3, 2, 1.
All right, we're back in on Clips and Dip. We talked a little bit about the problems facing the Clippers and the shift in the NBA towards big men. We're going to talk some trade issues and also the biggest issue with the Clippers, right, Charles?
Wait, what was the biggest issue? Oh, the give no quarter streak?
Yeah.
Oh, we're absolutely talking about that. So you mentioned the big issue, Rod. A lot of Clippers fans hate Ivica Zubac.
Hate or love. There's no middle ground.
It's mostly hate. Is it even like, because obviously I personally, it seems like right now with how Nikola Jokic is playing, I'm not seeing a lot of challenges for this number 1 seed. The Nuggets are a well-oiled machine that have 5 different people playing 5 different positions, kind of going back to your point, and things like that. How can the Clippers mitigate that? Because they're not gonna trade for Miles Turner, which is a very hot trade name for Clippers fans. The Pacers are playing historically well. They're not going to trade anything for Miles Turner. Like, what is the Clippers' path to getting a 4 wins in a 7-game series against a team with an elite big? Because like you said, they're all kind of 6'7".
If you want to know my act, like if I was paid $1 billion to try, like I have 4 months, figure this out, I would do what every team used to do and is about to come back. I would sign like 3 bigs that have no business trying to score an offensive bucket, because you have 4 guys around him usually at any particular point who should be able to get a bucket whenever they want. Your offense is already go one-on-one. Get me 4 Dwight Howards and use all those fouls on Nikola Jokic.
Yeah.
This is how people used to go at Shaq.
Yeah.
Like the reason why I say the bigs, like I'm going to take you through a journey here. Stay with me for like, I don't know. Again,
hey, we're here. We're here. We're on the journey. We're on the journey.
Wilt Chamberlain was the most unstoppable player in basketball history. And people talk about him like, oh, he was just dominant. Like, why? Because small people need to feel like, well, if it's skill, it's technical skill. Like, no, the game is get the ball in the hole. As skilled as you can do that is as good as you are. And and Wilt Chamberlain was unstoppable. So then Lou Alcindor comes up in high school And they're like, oh no. Not only are we super racist and this guy believes in things, he is going to keep doing what this guy did. And he's dunked, like his high school videos are crazy. Like he's just like, boop, just dunking on people. And they're like, okay, we're going to put in rules, make sure you have to go to college for like 8 years before you can enter the NBA.
Yeah.
And then we're going to say you can't dunk. Hoping that by the time he gets here, he won't do it.
Yeah.
And so Kareem literally has to invent the sky hook. But like people forget he was also like the most athletic player in the league. Like his first few, like 10 years, if he wasn't just a sky hook old guy, he was actually like everything the guards were, but 7 foot.
But yeah.
And when he turned like 35 and joined the Lakers and like won 2 more MVPs, but was like walking down the floor while Michael Jordan was like selling shoes, the NBA was like, oh, no, we can't have this ever again. So the year he retired, the NBA put in, I'm sorry, not the year he retired. Shaq came in the next year. I got this a little mixed up. Shaq came in the next year and just continued doing what Kareem was doing. And everyone saw this coming. But because Michael Jordan was at his prime, it didn't matter. It wasn't affecting the profitability of the game. But when MJ started slowing down and Shaq won his first championship, that's when the NBA put in defensive 3 seconds. Shaq had been playing 9-10 years. You're asking a 320-pound dude to now move from just sitting in the paint to covering the whole floor. It was a death sentence. And that death sentence wasn't because Shaq was good. It was because every team needed 4 Danny Fortsons. It was making like rosters look dumb. I remember watching a game where the Warriors played. Shaq wasn't even on the Lakers. He was like in Cleveland or something. And they had this dude from Indiana, the Warriors, this like 6'10". He was actually kind of skinny white dude
He's putting on like brass knuckles on the
from
bench,
Notre Dame,
like before he goes in.
But he just went in to get 3 fouls in like 30 seconds just to make Shaq work a little bit, and that was it. And the NBA hated that, so they basically legislated out big men. And then there's like 10-year gap where Tracy McGrady's like the best player. Like, and I don't mean that in some shitty way. I just mean like,
The
like,
shoe does a lot of help for Tracy McGrady's legacy. I will say that. The T-Mac 2 does a lot of help for his, as it should. Great shoe.
Think about 2002 to 2010, like the best players, if we're like not going to include LeBron in that necessarily, or like Tim Duncan, who started like kind of before then.
Yeah.
It's like the worst period of like legends we've ever had. Like no one ever just like, oh, put this team against any team. Like, no, because big men are gone.
Put these Nets teams against,
So all of this happened while I was coming out of college. So I was overseas for a lot of this time, and I was playing guys in like France. Like, does anybody know who the fuck this guy Pekovic is? Because why is he not in the NBA?
Yeah.
And then the year later he was. And then I did this 3-on-3 in Saudi Arabia like 5 years ago. And all the best teams in 3-on-3 all have an itch at the end of their last name.
They got the
itch.
I
was like, these guys aren't big because they're doing the 3-on-3, but they're still like taller than everyone else here, like 6'5" to 6'9". This is a little wild. Yeah. Who's missing from here? Jokic, Nurkic, Pekovic, Giannis. All these dudes have been just playing over there, learning, because it's the only place they will let big men develop.
Skills. Yeah.
Just let them play at all. Because they're not being legislated out for money. FIBA is international. They don't have the same of course they're for profit, but they don't have the same profit motivations as the NBA. Literally, it might be 7 years before the NBA produces the next great big man. You're just going to see guys come back from overseas again. And like literally, like when Ralph Sampson was coming and how scared people were, the Ralph Sampsons are just coming back. Like no one's gotten like bigger necessarily.
Sure.
It's just like, great, you forced us to learn these skills. We're back. And all that to say, the Clippers will literally never win until they pick one of these guys first.
Ooh.
Like, it's going to be the first overall pick in like the 2029 draft, because there's going to be like, they're going to call him Wemby 2. They've already outlawed 6 moves Wemby does because it's making the game unfair.
Right.
Because we love it when it makes the best down. It's fine. I don't know why we don't do this in government. It's okay. But you're gonna have the first pick. You've leveraged everything, and this isn't gonna work.
I just hope we keep the 2029 pick or 2030 pick.
Keep it,
totally honest,
and draft the tallest motherfucker you can find, because there'll be more.
Well, so
start there.
The funny part about that is the Clippers have a horrendous track record of drafting undersized centers who can't do shit. So right now they're on the complete opposite end of that spectrum. The Clippers drafted Daniel Ochuru during the COVID years, and because they did all their meetings on Zoom and stuff with him, this is printed in The Athletic, were surprised at how undersized he was. Like, that's the kind of draft rooms we're dealing with here. So, Rod, I hope you get hired to maybe help us scout some of these bigs who can help us.
I love Blake
Griffin.
Not
gone well.
I love Blake Griffin, but he had a shorter wingspan than his height. At the end of the day,
him and JJ Redick.
Yeah, which is wild. He's like 6'9.5", but his wingspan's like 6'8". And that's just not going to be the big you draft. Like, the thing is, people just follow what they're told. My agent used to say this all the time.
Blake was I was talking. Needed that pick.
I'm not saying he was a bad pick. I just mean that, you know, you're bound by your year and stuff like that. But my agent, I'm sorry, I was talking to a scout the other day when I was in the Bay Area, and we were watching Cal play, and I'm like, how do you even know? He's like, well, first of all, size. You know, if I don't think they can athletically do it, but he got to like. It started feeling a bit fugazi, and I'm like, man, it's like it's hard to follow. He's like, you understand? Like, I'm gonna keep it real with you. We don't know what we're doing. Like, this is a crapshoot.
Right.
We are like. He's like, some of us, like me, I try to do it my own way, but I don't get it right all the time. In fact, I get it wrong more than I get it right. So when I look at a draft, that's people operating like that. People see a system and they're like, great, how do I be the best at this system? No one tries to think about what the system even is. Is there a different system? Can I like fully ignore draft boards? And literally every team that you're like, damn, they keep hitting, just does that. Like, it's not it's not that hard. If you like just close your eyes and guys, it's not that hard. But if you're following like this, how you end up drafting Sam Bowie. This is how you end up drafting. I mean, I don't know who came
Daniel Oturu, Jerome Robinson. Have you looked at the draft that Jerome Robinson was in? And how the Clippers drafted Shea and also drafted Jerome Robinson for no goddamn reason? Like,
I mean, it's again, you're never going to get it right, but drafting, because everyone, especially, this is kind of like an American capitalist thing a little bit. I know I'm getting weird, but they need to go for the highest hit, not the best need for what they need.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Totally.
They talk about that all the time. Like, you're drafting on upside, even if it's not the best fit, which is kind of asinine, but that seems to be what everybody does.
Well, there was some quote from some draft. I can't remember who it was, but they were like, can we just draft, like, if a guy was good for 3 years, draft him over the guy who you think who was bad, who was okay for 3 years, but has potential. Sometimes it's that simple. And it feels like the Clippers specifically really spin their wheels with, like, we found this guy. Like, they drafted Angel Delgado, great rebounder in college, all that, but just a small center. Like, to your point, there's a size issue. At some point, you're just not tall enough. Daniel Tice was brought in because Mason Plumlee, an actual 7-footer, who we haven't gotten any updates on his injury recovery, but he did a light jog, I believe, the other week, which was the news we got. Which,
why would you report that?
Okay, well, the Clippers injury reports, that is a golden nugget compared to what we usually get for Clippers injury reports. But they brought in a guy, Daniel Tice, who has been okay. He's 6'8". He's the replacement for Mason Plumlee, who is an actual 7-footer. And I felt like a simpleton on Twitter because I was like, look, I love Daniel Tice's connectivity and, his passing out of the short roll, but, like, he's still 6'8". Like, he's still not gonna be a presence on the boards as much as we need when we lose an actual 7-footer. So, like, I'm leaning into your take that as much as I love Zubats, he would be a great backup center to someone who can do a lot more stuff. And I also think that your take makes sense that right now it's like the Clippers have to overcome a lot to beat someone with an elite 5. Like throw out Jokic, like even the Timberwolves have seemingly figured it out. Rudy Gobert, as much as I do not like the guy, is playing fantastic defensive basketball right now. And that
2-time DPOY.
Sure, 2-time DPOY.
But I think, like, this year too, it's even more exacerbated because the Clippers are smaller. Like, they got rid of all their wings and they've prioritized guards once again, like at the trade deadline last year and then in the offseason. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point, and it's only going to get worse.
Man, I'll say this because you brought up Daniel Tice, and I don't know how tall he is really. If he's
6'8".
listed, what is he listed at?
He's
6'8"?
listed at 6'8". Let me
Oh.
Google it, because I also did this whole thing where I put out a tweet where like Daniel Tice, like he's not a shooter. Like I said, he's going to be very good, but he's not a shooter. And everyone called me an idiot, but he's just not a shooter. He's listed at 6'8" per Wikipedia.
Okay, so the reason I ask, and I'm 6'10" on the number, like on the button.
Yeah, Rod
Right.
is huge. Rod
but-
has to get the extra.
Why didn't you open with this?
I wasn't
Your
trying to
dating
bring
profile-
BDE to start the.
Your dating profile is just 6'10".
6'10".
There's nothing else. Yeah.
Oh Lord. But I say that to say, one thing that really like mentally confused me a lot of times was that like, I don't know, pretty much every big on a roster everywhere I played was 6'10".
Sure.
But I'd stand next to him, I'm like, and a lot of these guys, we'd be at bars, we'd be at the club or whatever, friends, and they'd be like, "Nah, bro, you like 7'1", because
like,
they
"I'm
needed
not,
to be
dog."
6'10".
Right.
All I mean is this: like, it's a long way to say. We're talking about Daniel Tice potentially playing on the court with Harden, George, Kawhi, and Russ, or whoever, insert point guard here.
Sure.
What if none of those guys are their height? And I mean that in a way where it's like, I don't think you even get how small that team is. And it's like,
It's an issue.
if I was on so I was known for being a faster player, right? Me on a court like that, like, hey, I might have some trouble trying to guard a pick and roll, but that wasn't really my deficit. Someone like me, who isn't even that like talented relative to the NBA, could very much contain something like that. If I had the right, like if I'm around a bunch of all-stars, they don't even need like an all-star level player to play my role. I can just be Tristan Thompson. Like it's because everyone's so small.
Yeah.
Everyone's so small. I mean, obviously the NBA players are huge, but I actually don't think people get like the wide height disparities between like the guys who say what they like. Kevin Garnett used to say like, "Oh, I'm not." The rumors were he was like actually 7 feet. It's like, no, the truth was the 6'10s were 6'8".
Yeah. Well, I think KD says he lists himself shorter because for some reason KD is like against being a 7-footer, and he's standing next to someone who's 7 feet, and you're like, you are 7 feet tall.
We're the exact same height, me and KD.
That's crazy.
That's what I mean. How the rumors like even work, right? Someone not 6'10" looks at KD, and you're like, bro, he's lying. So like. He was at the University of Texas when I was on the Austin Toros as a rookie.
Oh, shit.
And he would come to our games. And we didn't have a ton of fans. So it's not like we played at a convention center. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he just sat next to us. And I stood next to him. I'm like, who's this college kid who's like literally, like, I mean, maybe not in the face, but from behind, people were like,
yeah.
And it's like, no, like, we're the exact same height. So that's what I mean. You get these stories because people who don't have it want to make it. They got to inflate him to make themselves 6'10".
This is reminding me, did you guys see the clip going around where the guy was asking people at gyms like how tall they were, and they'd say, and he'd pull out a tape measure and be like, let's measure it, man. And there were guys who were like, oh, I'm 6'2". And he's like, all right, cool, I'll measure you. And they were like, no. Like, I don't want to do that.
I would also say no very flippantly, but that's an interesting, like,
I would just say my real height, which is 6'2".
But shit like that is why people hide it also. Like, why are we attacking our short kings in the first place? Like, hold on.
Let the short kings live. So
a lot of short kings love Napoleon. He conquered the world. Like, let them conquer. Like,
left-handed. Yeah, we'll take
them live.
So can the Clippers make a move? Do you think the Clippers should make a move for a big? Or has the Clippers' bed kind of been made with this wing stop that we used to kind of think about? But like, I don't think you need to make a move.
I mean, a move is signing somebody, or I think people think moves is trading somebody. Literally sign all the bigs that like you think can rebound and are strong. Sign Oscar Tshiebwe out of the D League right now.
Dwayne Dedman's on our G League team now.
I actually think. Well, I don't know. He's probably good at this. I haven't seen enough Deadman. I used to train with him years ago, and I was like, am I just hating because I used to train with him and I was upset that he made it and I didn't? And I think that's really it.
Hey, that's
He's
okay
fine.
Too. Yeah, that's fine.
He's fine.
Makes total sense.
I just think that signing 2 or 3 of these guys to literally have one job, and that's to wear down the big on the other team. Yes, you're going to get fouls, but you got to like even plan in the idea that like the bonus will be your friend. Like, fuck it. Send the other team to the line every time that they get fouled, because it's probably slower, especially if we're talking like a team like the Pacers, than letting them play their pace. If you just, and it also is upsetting. Like, here's one thing people don't get.
It's
like,
annoying as hell.
This is an emotional game.
Yeah.
Another like thing that's in my book, but like, actually, I can tell the whole story in a second.
And what
I
book
made
is
this
that?
guy
What
think
book
we
is
were
that, real
friends.
quick?
Different dude.
Thank you. Out today, December 7th. Barnes Noble. Go buy it.
But there's a guy, and I like made him think we were friends for a whole season. We'd go out to the club, and I'd be like, "Ah, my God!" Like, because I knew he just got to Korea. He didn't know he was on like the rival team, and we play each other because there's only 10 teams in Korea. 6 times they went 60 games, so 6 times during the year, and a bunch of times at the club. I was like, "My God!" Like, we don't even take this shit serious. First game of the playoffs, we played him in the semis. Just did this to his side. And he was like, bro. Like, it's not I can't call a foul. I'm just touching you. Yeah. It's the most annoying motherfucking shit you can do to a guy in that position. And because he thought we were friends, he was so much more upset. Like, bro, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Like, I thought this ain't cool. Like, ref, call a foul. Like,
foul on what? I'm just touching you.
And we swept these guys.
Hell yeah.
And I just mean to say that, like, it matters. Having the mental edge matters, and it can be got a lot of ways. Most of all, by just making the other team play exactly how they don't. Even if they're good at it. Here's what usually happens. People forget basketball's a series. It's not like the Super Bowl, like, we tried to make them make short passes, and like it didn't work.
Yeah.
But basketball, it's like, we tried to make them shoot mid-range and it didn't work, because the whole media the next day is going to be like, see, that's what you get for, like, everyone knows you don't. Try it for 4 games. Because that guy doesn't like living his day that way.
Yeah, look at Luka versus the Clippers. Everyone says, Luka kills the Clippers. It's like, not in series, not in the shit that matters. Like, they lose every single one of those series.
All of these things are why, like, you just don't understand why certain teams just keep winning, or why certain guys just keep winning. Because all of it plays in. The game is not just the lines. It's everything. You are a human. You guys are doing a job right now. Anybody who's like, someone might be listening to this at a job. You're a human. You have days that matter. They used to tell us in college, like, don't gamble. We had all this because this guy from Arizona State was caught. Maybe it's Eddie House.
Yeah.
But damn, I lost my train of thought when I was trying to remember Eddie House.
Don't gamble.
I am drinking. Listen, it doesn't matter. All I'm saying is that there's a lot that goes into these things that people don't get, because they take they remove their humanity from the sport when they watch it. They have to. Otherwise, like, watching someone get carted off the field, imagine if that happened at work. Cognitive dissonance is important. We do it to protect ourselves from, like, the nature of it. But we also do it to our detriment, because we end up ignoring, like, how much humanity plays into who a basketball player is, how they respond to your comments, how, like, I do a podcast about Cal basketball, and I, like, take so much care before I say something negative, because I'm like, this player, it could be negative today. It could even be negative for a week, but it might not stay that way if I don't talk about it the same, because this is a human.
Totally.
So all these things play in, and we disconnect it so that we can say, they play you millions, bro. This is part of it. Figure the fuck out. It's like, sure.
Yeah, right. No pressure. You're getting paid millions of dollars. This reminds me, one time at a job that Will and I had, a guy got so mad he punched a hole in the wall at work, which was
didn't get fired. Did
not
have to replace the hole. Did have to fix the hole.
That shit was crazy. So all right, I'm gonna go to Will, and then we're gonna talk to Rod about this. Will, what's your prediction for the rest of the Clippers season? 42 more games, 62 more games? I don't know. 62 more games of this regular season. We're talking regular season only. Where are we sitting? Where are we entering the playoffs or play in, depending on what you're saying? I will look up some standings right now just for some reference if you need it. But the Clippers are sitting at 10-10, holding down that 9th spot. 2 wins behind the Pelicans for 8th.
Tied with the Rockets.
Tied with the Rockets at 500. Things have been trending up and to the right a little bit, but we still, that 6-game losing streak, pardon my French, totally fucked us. Where are you seeing us? 62 more games. Adam's not here to be positive, so this might be a bit of a dark segment.
I'm going to say 48 wins.
48?
That's the upside. Like that's...
Oh, no. Okay, so 48 wins last year. I mean, you're sitting at 3. 48 wins last year, the 3 seed.
Yeah, I just don't know if that'll be the same this year, because wasn't last year's lower on average than like the normal win percentages?
Yes. So 48 last year was
the Timberwolves are at 800 right now, which I don't think they'll maintain, but damn, you're not catching that.
Yeah, I don't know if we're catching 800. I think if we're just if and I'm again saying that I timestamp every take because people lose their minds. I got a timestamp at December 7th, 7:27 p.m. 1 gin and tonic, double gin and tonic in. I will say, as long as we're not in the play-in, I'm okay.
That's a coward's move. You had me pick a record, and you're gonna say as long as we're not in the play-in?
Yeah.
Coward.
I asked the
cowardice.
Question. Okay, here's my answer. Whatever the record for the play-in, no. I'm gonna say, damn. What the funny thing about the Clippers is Vegas, I don't think was giving an over/under on wins. Like Bet Online,
they weren't for a long time because I think people were waiting on the Harden thing.
Like we don't know what the fuck's gonna happen. Give me. I hate to say it, the 48 number's good. Give me the low of. There's no way they're sub 500. There's no way they're under 500.
No, they're not ending the streak this year.
There's no way they're under 500.
It's like the longest running streak of any team with winning seasons.
What is it, 10 seasons? 11 seasons?
Oh, I think it's 11 seasons.
Yeah. Which, hey, is there a trophy for being over 500 for a decade? Wow, and the fireworks are out.
Did you click something or was that?
No, dude. So we have, if you're not watching us, go watch us on youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast. But the new update with iOS and Restream, like if you do a thumbs up or something, it'll sometimes do fireworks. It's so random.
You can. I think it'll make a heart if you do one of these.
If I do like this, like I'm a soccer player who just scored. Yeah, let's go. The bottom is 45 wins. The top is 49. So there's not a lot of wiggle room.
So Vegas has it at one sports book. It is at FanDuel. It's currently 44 wins. At BetMGM, it is 47.
Damn, I would not take that bet, the MGM bet. Rod, what are you seeing? 82 games. Where are the Clippers at? Give us your stamp. Give us some hope, or not. It's your call.
Man, it's hard for me to because I don't even think that way, about wins and losses as a total. I don't know. They feel like a play-in team. They feel like a team that will get into the play-in and win one.
Make some
and
noise.
Then lose the series. And I was looking down, so I was like, let me write this down so I don't forget what I'm thinking about here. Part of the reason the Clippers people don't take the Clippers seriously. I think the 7-3 after losing 6 games is in part because people are man, I can take this night off, even a little bit. Take this night off. I'm coming to LA. And it's not the Lakers. It's not on national TV. It all adds up. And I think that leaves them perennially with inflated records. The only team to have 500, above 500 in the last 10 years is a team no one would guess. Yeah. Why do you think? There are extenuating factors that don't work when people take you seriously. When people game for you and scout for you in a way that's meaningful and put their best rosters forward night after night. The number, I guess I would say, is whatever the number to get the 7 seed in the play-in.
The top play-in seed, yeah. And what's tough too is the schedule debacle of the Clippers being the third tenant is always absurd. It's the most absurd this year. I think the schedule makers came out and said it's their last year in Staples, so we're giving them a big double bird, and you can deal with 17 games in March or whatever like that. But I think you might be right. The Clippers have so much about themselves to figure out, it feels like. We've seen Ty pull some good strings with splitting up, Harden and Westbrook. But again, this team goes as far as PG and Kawhi take them. And we've gotten 20 straight games of PG and Kawhi. And the 6-game losing streak, I don't know if this is maybe a rough question. Are they going to have a winning streak as long as that 6-game losing streak? That's like, they need one, but that's tough, man. Their longest one last year, I think, was 5.
Sick. I don't know if they do. I don't know if they make it to. I don't know.
They need to. They need to offset that losing streak with an actual 6-game winning streak, because that is.
Did you say that they have 17 home games in March? Like what? Like
17 total games in March.
Is that I guess
that's
a lot.
insane.
Yeah, that's every other day. Yeah.
It's more than every other day, and it's at the end of the season. I've been preaching that everyone should be preparing for this with their earthquake preparedness kits, since the schedule came out.
I'm actually really glad you're drawing attention to this, because a lot of people also don't get scheduling.
Yes.
Like your favorite team, like the teams that win a lot, get really great scheduling.
They really do.
It really matters. Last year, I really thought the Warriors were going to come out of the gate so dead.
Yeah.
But then their schedule, like 23 of their first 25 games were against like sub 500 teams from like the year before. So they were able to get it rolling. Like this all matters. Like start talking about the other things, because they all play in, bro. Like it's not even a conspiracy.
No.
This is a corporation. Like if BlackRock will move investment properties based on like a 1% change in the rate. Do you really think the NBA doesn't operate the same? Like if people are watching one thing, if a team gets credit for something, people move, like it all shifts right away.
It really does. It really does. Thank you for saying that I am not a complete lunatic for focusing on March already in December. Now getting to the second most important part of this podcast, we're going to talk about different dude in a sec. The Clippers slogan, Rod, if you were not aware, is one of the worst in professional sports. It is "Give no quarter," which is, as we know, impossible. And we have a thing on this show where we were going to donate a quarter into a jar every time they've lost a quarter. So far, they've played 20 games. These stats are from John Rodriguez. Shout out John Rodriguez. 20 games, 80 total possible quarters. They've won 44. They've lost 33. So right now, Will, we're in for a cool 825.
And the other 3 were tied quarters, I'm assuming?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
We won them, thankfully. But I hope they don't keep losing quarters. I hope that doesn't happen. Because 825, like, we're only 20 games in. Like, I can't afford this.
I mean, that does feel like something Elon Musk would say, like to promote his team. Like,
yes,
like we've
actually won 44 quarters despite being 500. Like, no, who gives a shit?
I'm not going to say a team will lose a quarter on purpose, because that's not what I mean. But
sure,
I don't know. We know for a fact that if me and the point guard are resting in the second quarter, we lose that quarter a lot. Like, there is no. The problem with sports is that the outcome is final, but nothing about what led to it is. And so people need like hard answers to figure out why something happened. Give no quarter. Oh, we lost 3 quarters. Like, as a basketball player, I'm not thinking that at all. Now, if I'm on like a 10-game losing streak and we realize it's because we give up 20-point deficits in the first quarter, like, hey, let's start figuring out like a lineup that gets us going or good early. But give no quarter makes no sense unless it's Middle Earth or like Lord of the. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like,
it's insane. It's an asinine.
We will hold
slogan.
the line. Like, what do you mean? This is basketball. Yeah. It's the least holding of a line game there is. That's football.
That's so.
Give no quarter. That's why I don't care how old. Go to like a Pop Warner football game or a football game or go to like the Rams. Every time the fourth quarter starts, all the players are like, doom. They start like, because we know we gave up the third. We'll never give up That's not basketball. Every single play is a give and take.
There's 150
water.
points. Yeah. All right, now to the most important part of the show. Rod, your book is out. Different Dude. Give a little bit of a spiel. What can people expect from this? You have so much experience that we've talked about, just life-wise, basketball-wise, everything. What can people expect from Different Dude, the book?
Well, a lot of this, me just being long-winded, it's you write a book so you can have the uninterrupted versions of your long thoughts, but it's really just a lot of stories about my career, but they're not the ones you normally get. And I think at the end of it, you kind of get this idea that basketball, as we know it, is like something we just all believe in. But as it actually plays out, it's nothing like most people believe in. And I really think that the authenticity is going to change how people even discuss sports, because no one has been this honest. Even like Andre Agassi, the honesty was very like personal but
not about the sport as a whole.
I see everything at once. Like I'm someone who can layer stuff. It's like a big part of my art. And so like when the book was done, I was like, oh damn, like this is saying a lot of things that if you're not paying attention, hey, maybe you just hear some cool basketball stories. If you are paying attention, you're like, why would that story be in here? Why would he include that? And like a 30-second story I can tell that is from the book. It's like the third one in the book. When I was 13, my mom told me and my brother to get in the car. We drove from San Diego to LA to meet my grandmother at work, which is weird. I'm like, why are we always meeting family at work? Like, right. Can we meet at the house? Like, we drove 2 hours for this. Yeah. My grandmother was not kind to me. We weren't friends. So I also didn't really want to go. But we get there and she walks us into the office and is like gives me the biggest hug and is like, oh my God, like you're so handsome now. How tall are you? And I'm like 6'1", like I don't know you. Like what's happening? She walks me through this office and every single person there takes pictures with me, has me stretch out my arms back to back, and I wasn't feeling it, but everybody else was like, this is important. There's a future something here. Mm. After that whole charade, my grandmother walked me outside and she's like, don't forget about us when you're like in the NBA and famous. And I was 13. I wasn't even on a team. And I was like, I'll never forget about you, which was a lie. And she literally goes, don't marry no white girl like Kobe.
Damn.
It's a short story that to me encapsulates so much about the basketball experience, the expectations from other people, even like the white girl like Kobe, like there's race that crosses through that. Like, what is my grandmother thinking is wrong with white people? But also like Kobe didn't marry a white woman.
Right. Okay.
And so like, what is the connection there? Like, it's so many things that I think, again, I try to be really deliberate with my work. At the end of it, if you were paying attention to the details, you get it. Like whatever everybody else is seeing with basketball, I don't see. I see the Matrix. I see green shit falling and I go blonde, brunette, redhead.
I cannot wait to read it. Thank you so much for coming on and giving us high-level basketball thoughts. It's been fantastic. We usually end on a positive note about the Clippers that Adam does, but Will, you're going to have to do that. But before we get into it, Rod, where can all these fantastic listeners find you? Plug the socials, plug everything you want to plug.
Yeah. Well, first, let me plug the Clippers. Positively, they do have players. They are exciting. It is a team that people want to watch. There's a lot of teams people don't want to watch. So I understand that it's easier to be negative than positive, but I'm going to give a positive point before you do, William, which is just to say that they're still fun. There's controversy. You care. You're here listening, so it must be doing something good. As for the book, it's called Different Dude. It can be found at differentdude.com, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, etc. And you can find me on all socials at ZSORRYON, which is just my middle name and my art name, but it's pronounced Jerion. I had black parents. And besides that, I'm just really thankful that you brought me on, man.
We are happy to have you. Yes, it was wonderful. We're going to be back. We're going to be on the radio at some point, I think. Adam is sick. He's not doing the pod, so he can do his pre- and post-game job for the Clippers, which is great. We'll have a tripod on Sunday, I think. We got a 3 and 4 coming up. Reviews help us. Will, give us one more positive thing about the Clippers before we send these very intelligent listeners and watchers about their weekend.
I think the brightest light of the tunnel, and I know Clippers fans are trepidatious because that's the way they are, but I think the biggest stat to look at so far is Kawhi and Paul George playing 100% of the games. And I'm not saying that they finished with 82, but that is about, I mean, like, you know, for a team that's dependent on these two guys, about as, I don't know, they couldn't do any better. They can't do extra credit. They can't play an extra game. So that to me is a good sign.
We'll take it. I hope they don't play any extra play-in games. I think that's a great trend to hop on. We will be back in a couple days. Thank you to everyone for listening. Find us on YouTube over at youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast. On Twitter, we are @ClippersPod. Remember that Adam Oslin is still keeping receipts, something we don't do, but we need someone out there to be in the trenches for us. Rod Benson, thank you so much. Everyone go check out his work. We'll be back soon. And as always, let's go Clips.